Hey everybody, this is the video that you're going to need in order to complete activity 1.2. So the way it works is you just play the video, and when I say pause and answer questions, you do that. There's going to be times where you need to leave this video and you need to go to my website and you need to play other videos while you're watching this video. So you actually won't be watching it, you'll have it paused, then you'll have to watch a different video, and then you're going to have to alternate between the two videos and your book. So remember, if you have the online textbook, you got to log into Clever, click on Activate Learning, and we are currently in the book that has the baseball on the front cover. So the expectations for today is you're going to complete activity 1.2. You're going to make solid predictions, observations, and conclusions by the end of class today. Our learning target is we're going to practice making predictions and observations of various surprising devices. So if we take a look at the book, and towards the top of the book it's going to ask you to do this. It's going to ask you to make predictions, and it says before you write a prediction, read the station instruction card so that you know what you're doing at each station. Now obviously if you're watching this video, it's because you're online for whatever reason. We might be virtual, you might be absent, you might be on vacation trying to stay caught up, but for whatever reason you're not here in class, so you don't have a station card, but I did include the cards. So you're going to predict what will happen to top 1 and what will happen to top 2. So here's the station card, and basically what's going to happen is you can see top 1, the little one right here, and here's the top 2. So both of these are going to be spun, and all I want you to do is make a prediction. When top 1, again, this is top 1, when you spin it, what do you think is going to happen? What's a prediction? And the same thing for top 2. Now, make your predictions a little bit bold. And what I mean by that is every once in a while I'll have someone say top 1 will spin, top 2 will spin. Well, is that really a prediction? Are you really guessing on how it's going to spin? Is it going to spin fast? Is it going to spin slow? Which one's going to spin longer? So it might be that top 1 will spin fast for 30 seconds and then stops. Top 2 will spin for longer than top 1, and it will spin faster. Those are more accurate prediction versus it will spin. So make sure you go beyond the very basics and put a little bit more effort into it. Now there's 3 pendulums. So here's the card for the pendulums. And basically we've got pendulum 1, pendulum 2, and pendulum 3. And you'll be watching a video in a little bit showing these, but basically we're going to start all 3 pendulums. So make your predictions. What do you think is going to happen? Which one will go the longest? Which one will go the shortest? Are they all going to move in the same way? Are they all going to move at the same speed? Is one pendulum going to move faster than the other? So those are all types of things you can add to your prediction. And then the final card with the rolling can. So here's the background information. Again, you can always pause to read these, but here's the can, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to gently roll the can. What do you think is going to happen besides it will roll? So the rolling can will roll. Obviously it's going to roll, but what's going to happen to it when it rolls? Is it going to roll very far? Is it going to roll fast? Is it going to stop? Is it going to keep going? What are your predictions? So go ahead, pause the video if you need to. I would expect you to have a good, solid, complete sentence for each and every one of these. All right. So again, don't move on unless you've finished making your predictions. So now we're going to get started on the next part. And what it's going to ask you to do is it's going to ask you to, for the top 1 and top 2, it says describe what you observed when you spun top 1 and top 2. And then record questions you have or things you would like to observe or measure in order to figure out how top 2 works. So let's unpack this a little bit. First of all, observations. Remember, use as many of the 5 senses as possible. What do you see? What do you smell, hear, touch, taste? Now, obviously, some of these won't make any sense. You're watching the video, so taste really won't play into it, smell. But what do you hear? What do you see? And if we were in person, you'd probably even use, the touch aspect of it. Now, when we look at this. Describe what you observed when you spun top 1 and top 2. So qualitative versus quantitative. So what kind of details do you have? How long did it spin? Did one spin faster than the other? So are there some things that you can take into account? Now, could you measure time? And time is easy right here because we have video. So you can see when we start the tops and you can see when they end, so you can figure out how long they would spin. So you can get as detailed as you can. The more details, the more facts you have, the better. So it says they are as detailed as possible. So when you answer this, describe what you observe, go beyond just a sentence. Now you can use a sentence starter, but add more to it. Get as much detail as you can. So what does it mean? Describe what you observe. What are you observing? Well, there's videos you're going to watch that are going to help you. Now go into Google Classroom and click on the links to these videos. Now if for some reason they're not there, well, you can always find these videos via my website. So if you just type in Mr. Wittoon's website and you see that there, it will take you to my homepage. And because we're in science class, you would click on science. And if I scroll down, I'm looking for that same book with the baseball on it. And once I click that, where it says lab alternatives, here are the 3 videos you're going to be watching. So you saw those same videos right here. Those are the ones that you're going to be clicking on. So I'm going to try and link these up in Google Classroom, but if for some reason I forget, you can still find the videos on my website. So you don't have to say, well, I couldn't do the video because I didn't see what they were. So what I'd like you to do now is I'd like you to pause the video while you're playing this little mini video and record the data that you see. And again, when you do that, you're going to see that there's 2 tops in the video. One's going to be labeled top 1, one's going to be labeled top 2. And so you can, when it says top 1 and top 2, when you have descriptions, when you make observations, you want to record observations for both top 1 and top 2. So go ahead, pause the video and do that. Now here's the reality check. Did you really pause the video and do that, or are you faking it? So hopefully you really did it. Now let's look at question 2. It says record questions you have or things you would like to observe or measure in order to figure out how top 2 works. So in other words, what are some questions you have that will help you figure out how top 2 works? You should have noticed that top 2, well, it doesn't stop. It keeps going and going and going and going and going and going. Well, why is that? Now, when we look at this, it says record questions you have, blah, 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 in order to figure out how top 2 works. So people that don't read the questions are just going to say, well, I don't have any questions. It's not what it's asking you. It's asking you what questions do you have that will allow you to figure out how it works. So you have to be creative. What kind of things, what kind of questions? So if I was in front of you, what kind of questions would you be able to ask me in class so that you could figure out what's going on and why it's working the way it does? Why does top 2 keep going and going and going and going and going and going? So it doesn't say just what questions you have, what questions you have to figure out how it works. And I want to really emphasize that because every year about a third of the class just says, oh, I don't have any questions, but it's not what it's asking you. So go ahead, pause this video and type in your answer for that. All right, so you've done the top. Now what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing for the pendulum. Describe what you observed when you set each pendulum in motion. And keep in mind, there's 3 pendulums. Pendulum 1, pendulum 2, pendulum 3. And when you watch the video, and you record your observations, make sure you record observations for each one. So you might have, pendulum 1 did this, pendulum 2 did this, pendulum 3 did this. Again, how long, how fast, how slow. Did one keep going and going and going, and did one stop? Again, you've got the videos, and the videos are playing, so you can start to time how long certain pendulums swung. So you want to have as much detail in here as possible. And again, when you do number 4, it says record questions you have, blah, 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 in order to figure out how the pendulum works. It doesn't ask you if you have any questions. It wants you to know what questions do you have to help figure out how the pendulum works. So you should have questions. I should see solid questions here. If you wrote in here at all, I have no questions, it tells me one, you didn't really read the question, and two, you weren't listening to the video. So make sure you have a question, otherwise you just got busted for not listening and watching the video. All right, so you've watched that video, you've done that. And so make sure you've gone in and you watched that video. So now we're going to go to the third one, the rolling can. So again, you can pause the video here, go in and click on the video, the rolling can, watch it. Good detailed observations are required. And again, what questions do you have that will allow you to figure out how the rolling can works? Once you've done those questions, you will turn to the final making sense questions. What do you notice that all devices have in common? And go beyond that, oh, they're all things. Now the sentence starter may lend you a clue, so you can always click on that, see what it is, and if you like it, finish the sentence starter. You might have to add another question or two, but it's a good way to get started. So you should have a good solid answer for this. And we will discuss this in class. In fact, we're actually going to do a lab coming up a little bit later on where we're going to use many of these devices again, and we're going to try and figure out how they work. So if you don't know how they work by the end of class today, don't worry about it. Eventually, I'll fill you in on the secret. So hopefully you've gotten everything done. I know the video is only 12 minutes, but this activity should take you the entire class period if you're adding good details. So as always, if you have any questions, make sure you let your teacher know. They'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.